16. A very suburban haunting. "I think he may be dead," I said. "Are you sure?" said Roger, the man sitting opposite me. The other 12 members of the committee had fallen silent, having forgotten their argument about the hedge cutting on the crescent and the weed-filled potted plants on the green, and focused their now rapt attention on the grey-faced man at the head of the boardroom table. As if in answer to Roger's question, the grey-faced head lolled forward. Graham Hardchester was dead. That, my friend, is how it came to pass that I, Millicent Granger Hewitt, became the first female chairperson of the Greater Grimley Residents' Association. It was also, I can see now, the catalyst for the hauntings. The funeral was the very next day, as the Hardchester family had a very full diary for the rest of the week, and that was the only available slot. The eulogy, fittingly, was delivered in Afrikaans, a language that Graham had suffered from in his later years. The family lined up outside to receive the mourners and swap email addresses. Graham had kept himself to himself mostly, so none of his family were known to us. I learnt that he had 3 brothers, no sisters, a sister, and another brother. And we shook the hands of all 6 as we passed along the line. "Sorry for your loss," I'd say, millicentgh123@gmail.com. And they'd nod solemnly and say such and such @domain.com, and I'd move on to the next. However, the last person in line, Archie Hardchester, pulled me close as if he knew me. "I know," he whispered, "that you're probably wondering why I pulled you close as if I knew you." Could he read my mind? "You have heard the rumours of my arrest for frotterism, have you not? Well, that is only partly to blame. I must tell you that Graham talked many times of you, of how you helped him with the committee. I must also tell you that, the day before he died, he consumed something mysterious that will undoubtedly result in mysterious outcomes." "Thank you," I uttered, not sure where to look. After a moment, he sighed and released me from his grip. Later that night, when I returned home, I looked up frotterism in the dictionary and burnt my clothes on the lawn. 2 weeks later, the residents had convened an EGM to elect a new chairperson and to question whether the apostrophe in the title would go before or after the S. I was surprised to be nominated as chairperson, especially by Roger, whose advances I had spurned not 5 minutes before the meeting. "No, I won't touch you," I'd said. "Put it away before anyone sees." He put his gun back in his shoulder holster and asked me if I would like to go to the cinema with him, on account of the fact that his wife didn't understand him. She was from Bogota and spoke no English. I replied, indignant, "Of course I will not go with you to the cinema. You, sir, are a married man." I buttoned up my blouse and left him there to put his shoes and socks back on and ponder his own feculence. At the meeting, the vote was unanimous. I was to be chairperson. My first decision was to remove the apostrophe entirely from the Residents' Association. My second decision was to ask that we recommission the gardener to replant the azalea garden. As these very words left my lips, a chill wind passed through the room, tussling with the net curtains and extinguishing the candles. "Ooh," said a ghostly voice. "Since when did we have candles at committee meetings?" said Mr. Gherkin, the tall man at the end of the table, with the curly black mutton chops and the stovepipe hat. "Whoa, whoa, whoa," said the ghostly voice. "Seriously," said Mr. Gherkin, "with all these net curtains, that's got to be a fire hazard." "Gherkin," said the voice, "be quiet, you little man." Something happened to Mr. Gherkin that very instant. Years later, he would claim that it was indigestion and a touch of cholera, but I knew that something spectral had reached into his soul and shown him hell. He turned a shade of pea green before sobbing uncontrollably and ultimately collapsing in a fetal heap. "Woe! Oh, woe!" repeated the ghostly voice. Mrs. Stokes, who ran the B&B at number 75, a respected state-registered medium, chose this moment to speak. "I believe there is a spirit in the room," she said, her arms spread out as if to block a rugby tackle from both sides. "And I believe that it is a restless spirit recently passed. None other than that of Mr. Hardchester." "Woo!" said a ghostly voice. "You are spot on." And to make a point, I believe, the spirit caused the computer screen on the end wall of the room to go into sleep mode. "Oh," said Mr. Grip Throttle, rubbing his thighs. "Do something else. Do something else." "Shh," said Mrs. Stokes. "Spirit, spirit, what ails you? What is stopping you from passing to the other side?" "Azaleas! Azaleas!" boomed the spirit. The lights flashed on and off. Mr. Twink's bow tie mysteriously spun, and all the water in the room became inexplicably tepid. "Don't plant azaleas." Now was the time for leadership, for clear thinking. "Should we plant fuchsias instead?" I offered to the ether. "Yes," came the macabre reply. "It's agreed then," I said. "We shall plant fuchsias in place of azaleas this year." With that, the candles came to life, the computer screen flickered on, the net curtains did nothing, and Mr. Gherkin burped. Mrs. Stokes stood. "The spirit is now at peace. He has passed. Mr. Hardchester has passed." Her eyes rolled in their sockets, and she fainted. "I hereby bring this meeting to a close," I said, "and we shall meet next in 4 weeks to discuss the erection of a statue to Larry Hagman." That night, dear friend, and for no good reason, I went home and burnt my clothes on the lawn.